Am I the a-hole for calling a woman a psycho for leaving a Bluetooth tracker in my car after our first solo date? My 42 wife passed away 2 years ago. We had been together since 1999. I was broken for a while and probably clinically depressed. I never sought treatment or anything. I was just not okay. I have recently decided that I am done being alone, so I asked my friends and family if they knew anyone that I might be interested in getting to know. I have never used online dating, and I only had one girlfriend before I met my wife, so I am not exactly an expert at how to date. My friend's wife said she knew a nice woman and I agreed to go on a double date with them and her. I thought it went well, and I said I would like to see her again. We agreed to go for dinner and see Anastasia. I picked her up at her apartment and once again I had a nice time. There weren't fireworks or anything, but I was comfortable with her and she is physically attractive. I dropped her back at her home afterwards and went over to see my sister. She insisted I come over and talk after the date so she could guide me. She was best friends with my wife. We met through her and she has become my protector since my wife died. So I'm having tea with my sister and this car pulls into the driveway. It is the woman I was out on a date with. I asked her how she found me and was kind of freaked out that she followed me. She said she had left an AirTag in my car so she could come over. My sister said that was creepy AF, and that if the sexes were reversed, the cops would be called. The woman tried to defend herself by saying that I already knew where she lived, so it wasn't that big a deal. I called her a psycho, and asked her to please take the tracker out of my car or I would call the cops. Now I have been hearing for days from my friend's wife, saying that I overreacted because I don't know what it is like out there for women dating in their 30s. She says I'm being an a-hole for blowing it out of proportion, and that I should be flattered that this woman wanted to come into my home for whatever after 2 dates. I told her that I did not need any more help or advice from her, and blocked her. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This is not a dating technique. It's a violation of law. As for your friend's wife, she needs to go search her own car and reassess who's overreacting about what. The sister is right. If Opie pulled a stunt like that, the woman would have called the cops. If the woman didn't want Opie to know where she lived, she could have taken multiple steps to protect that piece of information. Opie should call the cops. A person who does this is not going to go away just because they were rejected one time. The fact that she's so casual about it, freely admitting what she did, suggests she's tracking a lot of people, and we all know AirTags come more than one to a pack. This is why her friend, Opie's friend's wife, needs to search her own car before excusing this behavior as just dating sucks. You know what's not hard for a woman in her 30s? Finding a married BFF. So what will her excuse be this time? Not the a-hole. As a woman, run. Run far and fast and don't look back. That's deceptive and controlling. It is rather impressive that she was able to stomp boundaries that weren't even established. If she wanted to come over, she could have asked, like an adult, like a sane adult. She doesn't get to make that unilateral decision by hiding a tracker on you. Your sister is right. Had you done that, cops would be involved. Everyone would be rallying behind her telling her what a stalker you are. Absolutely this is genuinely deranged. I have never heard of anyone doing this, and it's certainly not normal. Block and block any secondary people who think this is normal. Sending all best to Opie. Not the a-hole, obviously. Not the a-hole. Straight up. It is a lot more dangerous to date as a woman than as a man. That's factual. But there is no rational reason she would have left a tracker in your car. There is no rational reason for her to track you so she could see where you were / who you were with. An AirTag in her purse so her friends can track her? Absolutely reasonable and rational. Leaving that tag in your car so she can track you? That's stalking. And make a police report so you at least have a paper trail if she escalates her behavior. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not reminding my ex he was supposed to come over to see our daughter? I, 26 female, have a 7-year-old daughter. My ex, 28 male, wasn't involved in her life by his own choosing. But back in December, he reached out. It took some time, talking, and a little therapy, but he is back in our daughter's life for about 4 months now. We are working with the courts to establish paternity and for him to get custody. In the meantime, I've let him visit her at my place. He's taken her on day trips, Since getting a bigger apartment, he's had her spend the night. He was supposed to visit her Wednesday, have dinner with us, and watch a movie. We tried to do things the three of us, per the therapist's recommendation, so she can see us get along. My ex said he'd be over around 6. He didn't show up. By 6:30, my daughter was hungry, so I fed her. I tried to put off the movie but eventually let her watch it. She was disappointed about her dad not showing up. I put her to bed at 9. 11:30, my ex calls. Freaking out. He said he forgot we were supposed to have dinner. He only remembered because his girlfriend came home from work and asked how everything went. Rather than apologizing, he got mad at me and asked why I didn't call him. I said I'm not going to chase him down. I already spent 9 months doing that when I was pregnant, begging him to be in her life. I'm not going to do that now. It's up to him to make an effort and remember the stuff. We had therapy the next day and she's on my side. However, my ex insists that I should have called. I'm frustrated that he hasn't tried to apologize to our daughter. My mom said that I should have called. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This really shows where ex's priorities lie. In no version of reality are you responsible for reminding him about a date with his daughter. Interesting that the ex-girlfriend remembered and he didn't. Wants women to do all the emotional work of remembering and reminding. Your mom was taught to carry that load, and she can learn that, no, it is not healthy for any of us if men don't learn to remember on their own. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. He's just mad his new girlfriend saw him for the deadbeat father that he is. Ignore your mom. Listen to your therapist. Yep, because you know that the girlfriend is the only reason he's doing this anyway. Not the a-hole. It's not your responsibility to keep your ex in schedule. As a 28-year-old adult, he should take responsibility for himself and his time. One thought, maybe set up a shared calendar so when you have activities that are planned, it can go on the shared calendar. Not that you have to by any means, but just a thought to keep track for you and to eliminate any "I forgot" excuses from him. That's a good idea, actually. As someone who forgets a lot and uses a calendar app to remember, don't take the effort of making and filling the calendar for him. Tell him about it and let him use it. Otherwise, you will have to do all the work and will still be blamed if something is missed. Next story. Am I the a-hole for expecting my girlfriend to move in and listen to my rules? My girlfriend, 26 female, and I, 28 male, have been living together for a few months. Recently, I got some money after my grandpa passed and was able to buy a duplex. I put down 20% and she and I agreed to split the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, utilities, etc. It comes out to $1,000 for each, and she agreed. But then she wanted to make changes to the house I don't agree with and bring her dog. Her dog has been living with her parents for the 3 months we moved into together in the place I rented before buying. She wants to bring him because he's her dog and her parents only agreed to let him stay with her temporarily. But I don't want the dog to move in with us and potentially damage the house. He isn't known to damage stuff as far as I know, but he does run around the house. And I want her to pay $100 extra a month for potential damage, or $1,000 extra as a damage deposit. She's angry because we agreed on $1,000 and no damage deposit, and feels like I'm making it too hard to bring her dog. She also wants to put a clothesline in my backyard, and I find it weird and tacky. Maybe it's because I grew up in suburbia, but everyone I know uses the dryer. But she insists she needs to have a clothesline and hates the dryer. She claims her clothing are too expensive to be put in the dryer, and she has only used a clothesline or drying rack her whole life. But that because our yard can accommodate a clothesline, I should allow it. I don't want the neighbor to see her put her underwear on a clothesline, and I think they will complain as it ruins the surrounding house value. She also wants to fill up a large part of the downstairs with her stuff. Our place isn't very big, and she wants to bring her skis, rock climbing equipment like ropes, harness, etc., 2 bikes and her winter tires. She also wants to buy a mount to install for the bikes for the winter. She doesn't have many other things like clothes, but we don't have a big basement. It's like a half basement, and she wants to put her stuff downstairs. I want to convert the downstairs into a gym for me, but she wants to move her stuff out of her parents' place because they are going to downsize when they retire in a year or 2. I told her she needs to either not do these things, like the clothesline, or pay for the storage place and dog. She refuses though, and says either I let her move in with the agreed upon rent or she's finding another place to live. She's currently back with her parents, and I've been paying for the whole place alone. She thinks I'm an a-hole for penny pinching her, but I don't think a landlord would be okay with her dog and clothes line, so I'm doing her a favor. She also makes more, $130K versus my $90K, so it's not she can't pay her fair share. Can already tell you are the a-hole. If she is paying rent or mortgage in this place, she has the right to make changes to her living situation. Her asks are normal expectations of things in a home. To turn this around, what you want is for your girlfriend to abandon her clothes, her pet, her hobbies, her belongings, and her income to be a live-in bangmate and pay you for the privilege. Why would anyone agree to that? You messed up and probably destroyed your relationship. You're the a-hole. Right, she pays exactly what he pays, but has to give up everything for the pure joy of it? I hope she sees the writing on the wall and gets out soon. My girlfriend wants to move in together, but get this, she wants to actually live there and bring her stuff. I can't clutch my pearls any harder. Info, do you actually love this woman? Because you're not acting like it. You're the a-hole. If she wants a landlord, she could just get an apartment. If instead you want her to be your partner, she needs to be able to live in the house. Like actually live in it. And yeah, lived-in places start to look lived in. I was going to say exactly this. OP wants to be a landlord rather than a partner. I think they will complain as it ruins the surrounding house value. A clothesline ruining the value of a whole neighborhood is bar none the most ridiculous thing I read on Reddit. You're the a-hole. You want your girlfriend to move in, split the expenses, but having no or very few of her belongings? This is not how a cohabitation works. I seriously balked at that. Of all the things you ruin a yard, a clothesline? Last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my sister because she wouldn't respect my wife? I, 32 male, and my wife, 31 female, sleep in separate bedrooms. It sounds a little weird, but it isn't. My wife has gone through some things, and one thing she refuses to do is sleep in the same room as someone. The only exception is babies and children. She told me from the beginning that she trusts me with every fiber of her being, but she just cannot do it. Of course I didn't care, and I have my own little bat cave where I sleep. Now here's where the actual story is. My sister, 27 female, asked if she could stay over at our house for the weekend because apparently her and her roommate got into an argument. Me and my wife agreed, and I told my sister about my wife's room thing. If you know she's sleeping, don't go in there. My sister was always kind of a spoiled brat, but it really shone here. She complained that the bed in the guest room was too lumpy, and she didn't want to sleep in my room because of my man smell. After all this, it was obvious that she would complain about the couch too. I told her my wife's room was off limits, and it was either the options we gave her or she could find a motel. She agreed and everything seemed fine until I woke up at 3 in the damn morning to my wife yelling, along with my sister. When I went to go see what happened, my wife was crying and my sister was just yelling back. I learned now that my sister sleeps in her underwear, so that made it even worse. I got into an argument and started yelling at my sister to get her crap and get out. I had one rule and she broke it. Her last statement was calling my wife a crybaby. My wife told me that my sister was trying to sleep in her room, possibly trying to kick her out. After that, I got text messages and calls from my parents, saying I was a horrible brother for kicking her out like that and agreeing with her saying that my wife was a crybaby and she should suck it up. Of course, I just didn't listen to it, but my wife came to me and started talking about how I could have handled it better and how she got texts from my mother saying the same. She said later the same day that she was happy I protected her. Still don't know why she said that, but it was probably my mother. This is really for if I should just apologize and get my parents off my back. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You offered your sister 3 different beds to sleep on, and instead, she chooses to literally sneak into the one room she's been told isn't up for grabs in the middle of the night? I'm pretty sure she's a character from a fairy tale. Goldilocks comes to mind. Apparently, her and her roommate got into an argument. Not surprised. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I have a hard time believing the story. Probably because I can't fathom what was sister's big idea about showing up in early morning in her underwear in someone else's room. But if anything, inappropriate bedtime behavior might be a good reason why a roommate kicked her out. Have you heard of I'm the Main Character subreddit? When it comes to people doing selfish things, I can believe almost anything. Info: what the hell was your sister doing at 3 a.m. in your wife's room in her underwear? Ask your parents for clarification on this. Sorry, my sister sleeps in her underwear, and she went into my wife's room to sleep. At least that's what I know. Even though a person was already in the bed? That makes no sense. Talk to your parents properly because sister might be making stuff up. Your sister is absolutely unhinged. Your wife's trauma doesn't even play into this. It is baffling beyond comprehension that someone would climb into bed with someone else without being invited in the middle of the night? Half naked? Not the a-hole. I would be absolutely screaming. Yeah, I don't have hang-ups about sleeping in someone else's presence, and I'd start screaming too. I really don't think there's an innocent explanation for a grown adult crawling into bed with another grown adult who said they don't want her there. Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my daughter's grandparents? I'm 26 female, have one daughter Anna, 8 female, 3-bad relationship with my ex Mike, 38 male. It was an extremely manipulative and toxic relationship, and I'm so grateful that I left when I did. I found out I was pregnant after I left him, and decided to keep the baby and gave birth to Anna all on my own. I tried to get child support from Mike, but he refused, despite having a 6-figure salary. He gave me full custody of Anna as I didn't care at all. Fast forward to today, I have a steady job and I'm raising Anna as a single mom. I love her to bits and would do anything for her well-being. So on to the situation. Yesterday, Anna wanted to bike around the block while I was working on my laptop, to which I said sure, because I trust her, and she's done this numerous times before with no issue. Well, about half an hour later, Anna still isn't back, and I started getting concerned. I'm walking around the block and find nothing. And when I get to my driveway, Anna's bike is there with a note that said something along the lines of, "Just wanted to take our granddaughter out for a treat. She's fine and she will be back by 5 p.m. Dave and Susan." Dave and Susan are Mike's parents, both 70-ish. I had gotten zero info on this beforehand and freaked the heck out. So I called the police and told them about it, and sent them to Dave and Susan's house. I have no idea how they got my address, but needless to say, they found Anna and got her back to me. I'm currently infuriated with Dave and Susan for taking my daughter out without my permission. But now I'm getting called an a-hole and told that I'm a witch for not letting them meet their granddaughter, and getting them in trouble with the police for spending time with her by Dave and Susan's entire family. I don't even know if Anna would be alright, let alone alive, so I think my freaking out is understandable. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This is insane behavior on their part. If they want to meet their son's bio child, because she's not their granddaughter, as to be a parent or grandparent, you have to be involved in a child's life. The appropriate thing to do would be to contact her mother and work it out that way. They kidnapped a child. Their son's genetic contribution does not change the fact that they kidnapped an 8-year-old they had never met. I hope Opie's daughter isn't traumatized. They kidnapped your daughter, not the a-hole. The only point worth making towards this insane behavior. Opie, not the a-hole, and please consider a restraining order against these people. On another note, how on earth can sperm donor get away with not contributing? Where I live, the government agency would deal with this and garnish his wages if he didn't comply. From the wording, it sounds like he signed away rights to avoid paying child support. Then the government wouldn't have gone after him. But by doing that, he ended his parents' rights as well, since they didn't have any relationship. They can't force her to give them visitation, since they didn't have a relationship to claim. Not the a-hole. Why couldn't they come to your door or write you a letter? Had they not just kidnapped your daughter, maybe you'd have considered letting them be part of her life. They really need to come at her son though. He's the one who abandoned her and the entire reason they have no relationship with their granddaughter. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. My idea is that they thought I wouldn't let them see her, which I might have if they didn't commit a felony. You also need to have a serious talk with your daughter about stranger danger. And also, be honest about what happened and that they kidnapped her, and she needs to keep away from them from now on. Get a restraining order, and make sure they can't go near her. Be honest with her and get a cease and desist letter to stop all the calls. Not a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying my sister can move in with me but her fiancé isn't welcome? I originally said they could both move in, but I found out the real reason why they had to move. So, I have room at my place. My house has 3 bedrooms and I live alone, so when my sister asked me if she and her fiancé could stay with me temporarily, I didn't hesitate. They're both employed, don't use drugs or anything like that, and I've never had any problems with them. It would just be temporary for a few months. I didn't hesitate because she's my sister, and I didn't want her and her fiancé to be homeless. My sister originally told me they had to move because when they went to renew their lease, they were told the rent was increasing and they couldn't afford it. They have to be out of their place at the end of the month. That's when she told me her lease ends. That was a lie. Their lease wasn't ending for months. The real reason they had to move is because of her fiancé's creepy behavior. He was going through the trash bins at the building, looking for used pads or tampons. I kid you not. And my sister thinks it won't be a problem because I'm a guy and don't menstruate. He started asking women in their building if he could have their used period products, and several of them complained about him because apparently he was harassing them and asking all kinds of creepy questions about their periods. I swear I'm not kidding. This is why they got told to move. I don't want a creep like her fiancé in my house. Personally, I think she's an idiot for staying with him, but she's trying to downplay it. I said she's still welcome to stay here because she's my sister, but her fiancé isn't welcome here to stay or even visit. My sister says I'm an a-hole for breaking my word because I said he could stay. She lied first, but she's downplaying that, and she's furious. I don't want him in my house, and she says it doesn't matter because I'm a guy. But I don't care. I find his behavior creepy. Edit: I didn't say my location in my post, but since many people are assuming American law applies where I live, it doesn't. The laws for tenants and eviction in America don't apply here. Saying I can't evict them and would have to go to court is inaccurate. That's not what the law is where I live. Not a-hole. He will stroll through your neighborhood on trash day and harass your neighbors. I live in a rural area. We don't have trash pickups like in the city. We have to bring our own trash to the pickup site. It doesn't go to the curb or in dumpsters. It's why my sister thinks I shouldn't have a problem with him living here. It doesn't change the fact that he has a very weird AF kink/fetish that is antisocial. No one wants that anywhere around. And just because you don't have trash doesn't mean he won't try to get his fix somehow. Asking women in the grocery store in the hygiene aisle, finding neighbors, or worse. And I'm sorry he's doing whatever he does with your sister's used products. This is just too out there. Not only is he banned for life if he violates it, get him trespassed, and tell your sister you will not be at her wedding and don't even ask. You don't support her with this man, and you won't be there. You will always be there for her, but never for him, ever. Oh, I 100% agree with you about him. I don't want him here. The "you don't have trash pickup at your house" was my sister's line for why I should let him live here. You did it. Finally, something so weird. Not a single person can say, "Stop kink shaming." This post really has me analyzing my kink shaming line. I think if he's dating a woman and she's cool with sharing her menstrual products, then okay. I still personally find it gross, but it's really none of my business. But asking random women personal questions and then searching through their trash for used tampons is something else. He's involving people without their consent. It's super creepy behavior, and he deserves to be shamed. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my sister to my wedding because she didn't invite me to hers? I'm 24 female and I'm getting married in a few weeks. 7 years ago, my sister got married and I was so excited. I talked to her about the wedding, what dress I'll wear, or if I could help her plan it, and she was always dismissive. Then a few weeks before the wedding, she told me that it would be 18+. She said she wanted to exclude annoying kids and made this rule, and she can't make exceptions and all this crap. She also said I was too young for the adult atmosphere and whatever. My 18th birthday was a week after the wedding. I was devastated, and I begged my sister to let me come. I really wanted to be there and support her. My stepmom refused to go to the wedding as a result of that, and my dad almost divorced her over it, among other things. I eventually accepted it, and I told my sister that I would not invite her to my wedding either. She scoffed and laughed, and said I was just being immature and I'll forget about it. Now, my fiancé's dad owns a massive yacht company. They rent out yachts, make repairs, and sell equipment. The wedding party will take place on a yacht, which can accommodate 200 guests. My sister asked me about the wedding, and I flat out told her she wasn't invited. She said I was being petty and how hurtful I was, and that her reasons were justified, and it's in the past. To be honest, I feel she just wants to be on the yacht, and not so much support me. I told her that she should have thought about that back then, and now she understands how I feel, and that she's only jealous that my wedding will be better than hers. My dad called me and said I need to stop being petty and invite her, and other family agree. I told them no, and after some arguing, they respected it. And now my sister is being a witch about it on Facebook. A friend suggested I should make my sister delete all the Facebook posts and write an apology letter saying why it was wrong to exclude me from the wedding. I think that's cringe, but what do you all think? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. If you were like 12 to 13 when you weren't invited to her wedding, it's a different story. But you were a week from being 18. She definitely had ill intentions back then for the disinvite. Not even that, she's her sister. She absolutely can make exceptions for siblings. It doesn't matter if they're 10 or 1 week from 17. But I agree, OP is not the a-hole. My wedding was technically child-free. My 17-year-old sister was absolutely an exception and was invited. Her age was never going to be a factor on whether she was invited. My older sister asked if my niece could come and see me in my dress before the reception. Yes, absolutely. My cousin just had a baby and brought him along. I didn't mind at all as I would rather have my family there. OP's sister was just being horrible. Good on OP for getting her own back. Not a-hole OP. Your stepmother is a gem for supporting you. Your father is garbage though. Now she can be excluded and know how it feels. It's truly amazing to see this. Stepmother put her marriage in jeopardy to support OP, which is incredible. Father? Meh. He's just tired of being complained at by others. Dad should have stayed neutral like he did when OP was excluded. Dad seems to have threatened divorce over the precious wedding when stepmother stood in solidarity of OP. Dad is an idiot. Dad clearly has a golden child. That is not OP. Last story. Am I the a-hole for getting my sister removed from the will because of her husband? I, female 24, have a sister, female 29, who has been with her husband, male 30, for 8 years. My sister is very hardworking with a good paying job. Brother-in-law, however, has been job hunting for at least 5 years. Personally, I believe it's brother-in-law's ego and his laziness stopping him from getting a job. Any job I would offer would be rejected because with his experience, he at least deserves to be a manager, and the money is too little. My sister has no contact with our mom. Completely understandable, because unfortunately, my mother can be manipulative and is a borderline narcissist. The worst is her victim complex. However, the catalyst was when brother-in-law lied to my sister and told her our mom gifted them $20,000, when in actuality, my mom said she would loan it to them. My sister sided with brother-in-law and claimed our mom was being manipulative. But our mom argued that it's a ridiculous gift, especially if it's to buy property. This would be their third, and mom already paid for 2. Mom then blew up, because by this point she was paying brother-in-law $100,000 to be her assistant. But he was barely working, about 5-hour days 3 times a week, and always coming up with excuses to skip. He then left after 6 months, which is when I started working for mom. Recently, the talk of inheritance arose due to dad's cancer diagnosis. My parents are separated, but mom has lots of assets, including $1 million life insurance, a $2 million home, and 12 properties which is under a family trust she manages. And here is where I think I'm an a-hole. because I convinced my mom to split her assets equally between myself and my brother, excluding the life insurance. Somehow, my sister found out and has asked we contest the will or draw up a contract to share the inheritance. I refused because, in my opinion, inheritance is earned. Besides, mom is still alive and healthy, so she can change her mind. My sister is upset and says that she deserves it just as much as we do, but I disagree. I work 12-hour days with my mom, driving her around, managing everything, whilst also being my dad's caregiver. My sister also wants to throw mom into a nursery home, whilst I would take her in. She said our brother didn't earn his keep, but is only 19 and a student. Therefore, the expectations should match that. Plus, he does the business, artwork, chores, and works part-time. I told her she and her husband can't expect anything from someone they haven't spoken to in a year. And now her argument is that me and my brother already have enough, as mom bought us 3 properties each, whilst she has to share with her husband and kids. My sister says I'm selfish, but I've worked my whole life under my parents. Honestly, I think it's the stress of being the only source of income for a family with 2 young kids that is getting to her. I do feel for her. She's expressed she's worried she might lose her job because she can't dedicate time to her career because of the kids. But both go to childcare 3 times a week, and if brother-in-law is unemployed, I don't know what this is. On the other hand, my sister and brother-in-law have always been entitled. Before, when my brother-in-law worked for mom, they would take mom's credit card for groceries and other shopping, and not tell her. They also did the same with my dad. More than anything, I don't want brother-in-law's laziness to be rewarded with my mom's hard work. Even though I don't really like my mom, she's a narcissist but still my mom. It's all complicated feelings. I cannot deny she has set us up for life. To think of all the hardships mom endured migrating to Australia and juggling 3 jobs whilst pregnant to build her dream house, and it could end up in brother-in-law's hands, makes my heart clench. So, am I the a-hole? If it was my sister and kids, I wouldn't mind, but her and brother-in-law are a package deal. Note, all family members, except sister and brother-in-law, agree with this sentiment. I do feel guilty, but I don't know how to ensure that only my sister benefits, not brother-in-law. The 12 properties are under a family trust as we built them ourselves. Brother-in-law is not included in our family trust. However, sis has put brother-in-law's name on the title of all properties mom has bought her. My sister will always get her fair share of the life insurance though. I mentioned this in a reply, but we specifically want the 12 properties to remain under myself and my brother's care, so we can pass them down to my sister's children and my brother's future children. My sister or brother-in-law would likely try to sell them. They're not mortgage-free properties, and we still need to manage them. Also, I don't plan on having kids, so it's pointless for me to have this. And because I won't have kids, my niece and nephew will inherit everything of mine. Currently, the original loan for the properties have me and my parents liable. I would love to judge, but this is 2 first-world problems for my brain to process. I have a job and 3 gifted properties. I want more inheritance. I've got 3 jobs and a mortgage. I want dental insurance. So I guess you're the a-hole. Try looking at more as I don't want my lazy, entitled, and dishonest brother-in-law to get more stuff. Opie's not really demanding more. She just wants her brother-in-law and sister to get less because of their lousy attitudes and how they've treated the rest of the family. And I'd have to agree. In Opie's situation, I'd prefer the brother-in-law's share go to charity than see him be rewarded for being a lazy leech. Not the a-hole for me. I'd prefer neither Opie nor brother-in-law get anything and it all go to charity. But that's entirely irrelevant. Opie is an a-hole. You're the a-hole. Why did you convince your mom of anything? You should have let her make her own choice and stayed out of it. You said your sister works hard, and just because you kiss your manipulative mom's butt doesn't mean she has to. Doesn't like brother-in-law. Screwing over sis as a result is fine. Huge, you're the a-hole.